White knight marches to f3. Black knight marches to f6. White pawn marches to g3. Black pawn marches to g6. White bishop marches to g2. Black bishop marches to g7. White kingside castling. Black kingside castling. White pawn marches to c4. Black pawn marches to c5. White knight marches to c3. Black knight marches to c6. White pawn marches to d4. Black pawn marches to d6. White pawn marches to d5. Black knight marches to a5. White knight retreats to d2. Black pawn marches to a6. White rook moves sideways to b1. Black rook moves sideways to b8. White pawn marches to b3. Black pawn marches to b5. White queen marches to c2. Black bishop marches to f5. White pawn marches to e4. Black bishop retreats to d7. White knight retreats to e2. Black pawn marches to e6. White bishop marches to b2. Black pawn captures pawn at d5. White pawn captures pawn at d5. Black rook moves sideways to e8. White rook moves sideways to e1. Black pawn marches to b4. White knight marches to f4. Black knight marches to g4. White bishop captures bishop at g7. Black king captures bishop at g7. White knight retreats to d3. Black bishop marches to b5. White knight marches to c4. Black bishop captures knight at c4. White pawn captures bishop at c4. Black queen marches to f6. White pawn marches to h3. Black knight retreats to e5. White knight captures knight at e5. Black queen captures knight at e5. White rook moves sideways to c1. Black pawn marches to b3. White pawn captures pawn at b3. Black knight captures pawn at b3. White rook moves sideways to b1. Black knight retreats to d4. White queen marches to d3. Black pawn marches to g5. White queen retreats to d2. Black king retreats to h8. White pawn marches to f4. Black pawn captures pawn at f4. White pawn captures pawn at f4. Black queen retreats to g7. White queen moves sideways to f2. Black rook moves sideways to a8. White king marches to h2. Black pawn marches to a5. White rook marches to b7. Black pawn marches to a4. White pawn marches to e5. Black pawn marches to a3. White pawn marches to e6. Black rook moves sideways to f8. White rook moves sideways to a1. Black knight captures pawn at e6. White rook captures pawn at a3. Black rook captures rook at a3. White pawn captures knight at e6. Black queen marches to f6. White pawn captures pawn at f7. Black rook captures pawn at f7. White rook captures rook at f7. Black queen captures rook at f7. White queen moves sideways to b2 and gives check. Black resigns and white wins the game.